Welcome candidates yet for another session. This is Mr. Renato Noel, your teacher, reaching you from Good Times. I'm continuing with our topic, which is nationalism and the road to independence. And I want to begin with new words. And these new words are 1, war, then 2, morale, 3, base, 4, association, 5, political party. Candidates. These new words, we are going to meet them as we go on with our lesson, and we need to look at the meaning of these new words one by one. And I'm beginning with war. The word war simply means a period of fighting or conflict between countries or states. Then the word morale means the amount of confidence that people have, the amount of confidence that people have that they are most likely to have their success. Then 3, the word base simply means where one starts or a starting point. Then 4, association. I remember in the other lesson I talked about it, and the association has again appeared, and it simply means an organized group of people that come together and have something achieved. And in their coming together, they have similar interests and they have similar targets. So that one is an association. Then lastly is political party. A political party is also a group of people, but in this case, for it has the members in that political party have got similar political ideas. So they are fighting to achieve similar political ideas. We are going today to look at the factors that led to the success of African nationalism. Your teacher also talked about it, talked about those new words like nationalism. So we are going to look at the factors that led to the success of African nationalism. Candidates. One of the factors is the influence of the Second World War, and we are going to look at the effect, the next subtopic, how that Second World War helped these Africans to achieve their success. Then 2, the spirit of Pan-Africanism. I said 2, the spirit of Pan-Africanism. Then 3, the education of Africans. Then 4, formation of Organization of African Unity, or AU. Then 5, unity among Africans. Then 6, independence of some other states in Africa. Candidates, let us look at how those factors I have talked about enabled Africans to achieve their independence, or how those factors helped Africans in their struggle for independence. And I said the number 1 was the influence of the Second World War. What roles did the Second World War play in the struggle for independence in Africa? Africans all African soldiers learned the skills of fighting, because during the Second World War, some African countries got involved, and majorly they wanted to fight for their colonial masters. And in the due course, these African soldiers learned skills of fighting. I can give an example of Ignatius Kangave Musas, who participated and was a Ugandan, and when he came back, he had to arrange and fight for independence in Uganda here, my country and your country as well. Then too, Africans learned the importance of unity, because while in the Second World War, when they participated, they saw how organized the Europeans were and had to copy. So when they came from the World War, they had to unite and fight for their independence. Then 3, Africans learned that Europeans can also be defeated. In other words, they learned that these Europeans, much as they were strong, but they saw them die during the war. And in their mind, I mean Africans, they developed that intention of fighting against them after the World War, because they had learned that even those Europeans could be defeated. Then it made Europeans to change their policies. Why? Because as Africans continued to learn about the technical way of handling Europeans, especially militarily and in other ways, the Europeans had to change and know that if we don't change our policies, then we are going to have challenges with Africans. That's why some of the Europeans had to accept and grant independence to African countries. So they learned that they should have organized themselves and granted Africans their freedom. Then we also talked about the spirit of Pan-Africanism, and we are going to see how did the spirit of Pan-Africanism help the Africans or the nationalists to fight for independence of their countries. It mobilized the Africans to demand for freedom, because in Pan-Africanism they had a common goal, and therefore they had to come together through conferences that were organized, which we previously looked at or which we previously talked about. So through such conferences, they were able to unite and demand for their independence. It united Africans, and still in the conferences and in the media, like newspapers, they were able to get united and fight for the common cause, which was to free their countries. It gave morale to nationalists. In other words, when the nationalists came together, they had that zeal that we should have our African countries set free by hook or crook. So they struggled and made sure that these Africans had to achieve their independence. So their morale rose, and they continued to fight not until when their countries were set free. It provided funds, and these funds, I told you in the other lesson, that you cannot win anything except if you are financially stable. So the funds were used in mobilization, in providing necessities, in buying gadgets to fight for independence, and that one enabled them to achieve their independence. The formation of Organization of African Unity, or OAU, how did it help them? It united nationalists, because this organization, as I say, it was meant to unite all the independent African countries by then. So when they came together, they also discussed about how best they would also help other African countries that had not attained independence by that time, and they were now able to discuss and give support to those African countries that had not attained their independence to achieve their independence as well. OAU also provided support to the nationalists, like funds, training grounds, and even military equipment, because by that time the body had become strong and it had organized some funds that were meant to train the Africans who had the zeal of having their countries set free. So the training, the money, the food, the medicine, and other facilities that helped them to attain independence. The education of Africans yet was another strong way that helped Africans to attain their independence, and it played a big role. In this case, it helped Africans to learn how to organize people into associations, political parties, organizations, and other many ways that could bring these Africans together. And that education was, people had got informed of how best they would fight and achieve their independence. The education also helped Africans to establish newspapers to spread the ideas to fight colonialism. Because most of these newspapers were written in English, and this language was a foreign language, but because they had already acquired education, the Africans were able to read and comprehend the messages in which they could gather information and mobilize others and fight for their freedom. Education also helped Africans to learn the importance of protecting their own resources, because these nationalists were coming from different countries, and they were different regions of Africa. So it was only through education that they would communicate and have information about the importance of their resources and how best they would defend and protect them from from being taken by these ill-intended colonialists who wanted to exploit Africans to the grassroots. It also helped to reduce the problem of language barrier. I told you in the previous lesson that these people, if they never had the way of coming together and share and understand one another, then it would be difficult for them to fight against colonialism. But because of the education, they were now all able to get messages in English, whether written or oral, that were able to make them now understand one another and fight for a common cause or a common goal, which was to have their countries set free from foreign rule. Candidates, it also, education also helped the colonialists, rather the Africans, now to make maps or to draw maps, because you cannot draw a map in a war or a map to use during fighting if you are not educated. So it was education that helped them to draw maps that they would use in fighting. Let us look at independence of some other African states like Ghana, like Morocco, Sudan, Guinea. Those are some of the countries that attained independence before others. And that those countries having attained their independence, how did it help other African countries to acquire independence? The independence of some other states provided morale to other nationalists that they would be able also to fight for independence of their countries. It also provided refuge to nationalists, especially those ones who were defeated. They could run and take refuge in other countries that had already attained their independence. And in those countries, that's where they would reorganize and come to attack and again see how best they would fight and defend and win their independence, which had been deprived of by the colonialists. It provided military training and bases to the nationalists. As I told you, those countries like Ghana, like Morocco, and the nationalists who were defeated could go and reorganize from there. Begin training, they could begin drawing maps to follow, they could begin selecting commanders, and all other kind of arrangement that would help them to fight and achieve their independence. Candidates, I want to thank you for my lesson or for having attended this lesson, and allow me now assign you 2 or 3 numbers which you need to do so that I may assess and see how best you have understood or comprehended my content. Number 1, how did the Second World War promote nationalism and demand for independence in Africa? 2, in which way did the higher education help in the struggle for independence in Africa? Then 3, which is the last, state one way how OAU helped in the struggle for independence in Africa. Thank you for attending my lesson. May the good Lord continue blessing you over there.